Trump halfway through the conversation. Like, well, I'm not really for Trump. I'm just, you know, like a big Hillary fucking hater.
Hello?
Hey, what's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
Pretty good. You're okay. A couple of things. Because I'm not informed on all this shit. You're a Gamergator dude? You were the big Gamergator guy in the beginning? Somebody told me that?
Yeah, I haven't been in Gamergate since November 2014, so it's been like 2 years.
Okay, somebody in chat said that, so I wasn't sure. You're Jim, right? You're the Jim?
Yeah, I'd be the Jim.
The Jim. Okay. So, to establish this at the very beginning, are you somebody that adamantly supports Trump, or are you indifferent to Trump and you hate Hillary?
I didn't vote this election. I've been pretty clear. I know we don't know each other. I just kind of got drawn into this, but I didn't vote for him because I disagree with certain planks in his platform, I guess. There's certain policies that he has, certain outlooks on security and freedom of speech. So that's kind of why I didn't vote for him. But I do like him. He's a likable gentleman. So I would say that I like him more than the other candidates that were present during the election season, both in the Republican primaries and amongst the Democratic candidates.
Okay, so then what exactly are we arguing about?
I have no fucking idea. Somebody messaged me on Twitter, said you wanted a debate, and then you sent and asked for my Skype address or username, so I got pulled in here. I don't know what the fuck we're debating.
Okay, why do you like the Trumpster?
Well, I hear he has a giant fucking cock. That's one thing I've been told, and I love a man with a big dick.
All right.
And I also like the fact that he speaks his mind. That's refreshing to me, that there's not a lot of PR in between him and his thoughts.
Do you think it's admirable to speak your mind if everything on your mind is fucking stupid? Do you think that's an admirable trait?
Is everything on his mind fucking stupid? I'm not a telepath. I don't know.
Everything that I've heard him say is pretty dumb. Yeah. I mean, I'm not a telepath.
About everything that he said. You just said everything on his mind. So are you certain everything this man thinks is stupid?
You said that you like somebody that always speaks what's on their mind. So I'm assuming that he's speaking his mind because he doesn't have the PR shield up. So I asked, do you think that it's good if everything on his mind is stupid, implying that everything he said is stupid? I'm sorry if semantically that wasn't perfect, but my implication was that everything he has said is really dumb. So I don't know why it's admirable that he doesn't have a filter if everything that comes out of his mouth seems to be really stupid.
So you like lobbying in politics?
I don't like lobbying, but I don't like lobbyists either. Do you like lobbyists in politics?
No, I don't.
Then why do you like Trump when he's lobbied for politics his entire life?
That's a great question, but I'd like you to follow up with me first because you're saying everything he said is stupid, and I asked you, do you like lobbyists? And you said no. Well, he has said this, that he wants to get rid of lobbying in politics. So you've kind of contradicted yourself. We're in like 1 minute and you've already contradicted yourself.
Well, he said like 2 or 3 kind of intelligent things, but every action that he's done to the contrary has made me question. He also said he would never take donations for his campaign and he would fund it all himself. And he walked back on that as well. He also said he would drain the swamp in Washington and nominated a bunch of fucking lobbyists to move into some of these cabinet positions and whatnot. So I don't actually know if he actually got rid of all lobbying from Congress.
Who did he nominate?
I didn't see exactly who. I heard people like Newt Gingrich and whatnot for like State Department positions and people like Giuliani and shit. He was looking at Romney, I think, for Secretary of State.
Are we talking about looking at and rumored and suspected by sources listed in the media? Or are we talking about something that Trump himself said, these are the people that I'm considering, these are the people that are going to be competing for the job? Because I haven't heard any statement from him really about, I'm going to put these people in the cabinet positions. I haven't seen that. I've read a lot of articles about people talking about rumors and speculation of who's being looked at, that he's meeting with so-and-so and that they're having a 1-hour lunch or they're having a 2-hour meeting. But I haven't heard Trump himself come out and say, yeah, these are the people that I want to put in positions.
Trump himself has defended it. He had a 60 Minutes interview, the first interview that he gave after becoming president-elect, where the interviewer called him out for nominating a bunch of lobbyists to fill these positions. And his defense was, well, everybody out here is lobbyists. What am I supposed to do?
Right. But again, who are these people we're talking about?
Lobbyists? The same people that he said that he didn't want in government?
Yeah, what I'm saying is, if you're so convinced that they're lobbyists, give me their names. Who are we talking about?
I don't know the exact names, but he said they were lobbyists. Trump defended putting lobbyists in. Why does the exact name matter?
Maybe it's an off-the-cuff remark talking about how corrupt Washington is. Everybody out here's lobbyists. I don't know. I didn't watch the interview.
Okay.
Can you give me the whole quote?
Let's see if I can find it. Hold on.
So let's go through very quick.
All right, this video is 1 minute and 10 seconds long. I'm guessing this is it because this looks like the interview.
Okay,
some of
can
the
you give me 1 second?
promises
Let me
you
just pull
made,
it up
and
here.
tell us if you're going to do what you said, or you're going to change it in any way. Are you really going to build a wall?
Yes.
They're talking about a fence in the Republican Congress. Would you accept a fence?
Is this bleeding through, or do you want me to mute my mic for
No,
you?
I can hear you. It's fine. It's not bleeding through.
In areas I would, but certain areas the wall is more appropriate. I'm very good at this. This is called construction. But
So part
a
wall,
fence will
part
be,
fence?
Yeah, it could be. There could be some fencing.
What about the pledge to deport millions and millions of undocumented immigrants?
What we are going to do is get the people that are criminal and have criminal records, gang members, drug dealers. We have a lot of these people. Probably 2 million. It could even be 3 million. We're getting them out of our country, or we're going to incarcerate. But we're getting them out of our country. They're here illegally. After the border is secured and after everything gets normalized, we're going to make a determination on the people that you're talking about, who are terrific people. They're terrific people. But we're going to make a determination at that. But before we make that determination, Leslie, it's very...
Nope, hold on. This isn't the correct video. I got to try to find it now in the fucking 60 Minutes interview. Here's a Reddit post that goes through all of the people in his transition team and the different connections and links that they have, I guess, that some people might call these people lobbyists.
Okay. All right, give me 1 second here. Let me just pull this up. I'm not a Redditor, so you're going to have to give me a minute to kind of sort through
Yeah,
this
that's
shit.
fine. It's just in the comment. I'm not used to people challenging this assertion because it seems to be generally accepted as true, but I mean, I could try to find the specific 60 Minutes quote if you...
Okay.
Does anybody know the 60 Minutes thing that we listened to on stream where I don't remember which interview it was. I'm pretty sure it was a 60 Minutes interview.
Yeah, I'm reading through it right now. Is it the top post I'm going to be looking at here, or where would I?
Yeah, I should have
where
linked
would I
you
look
to a
in the-
post that's all in yellow.
Oh,
or whatever.
it's the direct one. I got you. Okay. Good. Okay, it's talking a lot about Robert Mercer. Turns out Kellyanne Conway is heavily connected to the same people Steve Bannon is connected to. Robert Mercer, and the Trump campaign was essentially ran by two people who worked for Mercer. I looked into this yesterday. Here's a large part of why Steve Bannon ran Trump's campaign and is now in Trump's White House. So it seems the assertion, at least from this post that I'm getting, is this is Bannon's connection to lobbyists or his interest in, I don't know, personal or furthering his own personal wealth or his own power, lobbying for his own interests. And that's what they're talking about when we're saying that there are all these lobbyists that have been named to cabinet positions. We're talking about Steve Bannon.
I mean, there's also been a lot of talk of other people. I guess Trump himself hasn't come out and exactly said that I'm putting Giuliani or Newt Gingrich or any of these people in, but there's been a lot of talk that those are people being considered. I don't know if it's normal that a presidential candidate would come out and say, like, oh, well, this is absolutely going to be the guy. Hold on, give me 1 second to see if this is the correct, like, 1 second.
Said that lobbyists own politicians because they give them money. You admitted you used to do it yourself. You have a
when you say
transition team.
lobbyists and special interests.
Okay, I think this is the clip that I was looking for before.
Okay, give
All
me
right.
1 second here.
Yeah,
Let me pull it up.
You said that
Okay,
lobbyists
right to the link.
own politicians because they give them money. You admitted you used to do it yourself. You have a
when you say
transition team.
lobbyists and special interests.
And you want to get rid of all of that.
I don't like it, no.
You don't like it. But your own transition team is filled with lobbyists.
It's the only people you have down there.
You have
All
lobbyists
is
from
lobbyists.
Verizon.
Can I
You have
read?
lobbyists from the oil gas industry.
Sure.
You have food lobby.
Everybody's a lobbyist down there. That's
Well,
what they
wait.
are. They're lobbyists. They're special
On your own
interests. We're
transition
trying
team.
to clean up Washington. Look,
How can you clean it?
everything down there. There are no people. They're all people that work. That's the problem with the system. The system. Right now, we're going to clean it up. We're having restrictions on foreign money coming in. We're going to.
I think around 10:20, you're pretty much done with it.
Okay.
So
yeah,
it kind of
that's
sounds
about-
like he has like an excuse there to defend the lobbyists. But I mean, like I mean, I guess like looking at it from a neutral third party, you could see how that kind of sounds kind of bad for a guy that promised that he was removing lobbying from Washington. That now he has an excuse for why he's working with a bunch of lobbyists. Right? You see how that looks a little bad, maybe?
No, I don't disagree with you. But again, it seems like a comment more to the nature of what Washington is like now. I mean, this is his transition team we're talking about. These aren't people that are going to be sitting as Secretary of State or Defense. These are people that are basically moving him into the White House and helping him sort through the transition into it.
Sure, I understand what you're saying, but like, to point, I'm sure that you didn't like Bernie Sanders, but we can agree that Bernie Sanders was also somebody who was big against lobbying. Do you think that as much as he pushed that point, do you think that if on Bernie's transition team, do you think that you would find lobbyists from all of these companies? I feel like that would be pretty hard to believe based on his voting record and everything that he said during the debates and the way that he's conducted himself.
I don't know. He's on like summer home number 4. You might have found about 20 or 30 lobbyists on his transition team, to be honest with you.
Because he has a couple summer homes?
Yeah, because he has a lot of summer homes and Audis. Yeah.
And
because,
Audis too?
Yeah, he does.
Do you have like real links to like non-Breitbart links to all of this massive amount of wealth? I'm pretty sure he released his taxes and his net worth was like a pretty modest sum. I don't think it was anything extreme.
What was the modest sum? What was the modest sum that he had as a net worth?
I don't think it was it even $1 million?
I don't know. That's why I'm asking you.
I thought it was less than that. I know that they were released and nobody even made a big deal about it. I know that Hillary was like around 40 million. Was it $450,000? That sounds like some figure around in there is about what I heard. Also, I don't know why you would need a lobbyist to buy an Audi.
I don't know. That's just how he rolls.
Yeah, but what is that?
That's a play on words there. You get it? That's just how he rolls. We're talking about cars.
Okay. So I guess all I'm trying to say is that Trump has said a couple of things that I agree with, like fundamentally, but when you look at how he actually acts, I have a hard time believing that he's actually going to carry those things out. Again, whether you hate him or like him or not, and there are very legitimate arguments for why you would hate all of his policies, and I totally accept that, I don't think that Bernie's transition team would be filled with lobbyists because of how hard he ran on that issue. So I feel like seeing Trump walk back on a lot of these things that he said kind of hurts his credibility. He did the same thing with the ACA. He said that he likes the pre-existing conditions, and he said that he's probably not going to repeal all of it. He did the same thing with the wall. He said he's probably not going to have a wall. Maybe a fence is okay in some areas. Like, it seems like he's now he's talking about repealing Dodd-Frank. I thought, like, I don't understand. I guess it's hard to figure out, like, what exactly is he going to do. And then during the debates, he did the same, where he would say an outrageous statement, and then the next day he would walk back on it. So even of, like, the couple of things he said that maybe are good, it's hard to tell. You have to just go by the few actions that you have to judge him on, you know?
Okay. So it seems that you dislike Trump.
A lot, yes.
Okay. And again, I don't know you, so I don't know what your political standings are or what your opinions on any of these people are. What is it exactly about Trump, aside from the thing where you said that you think a lot of what he says is stupid and he walks back on a lot of his policies?
That's my biggest point. I think he's an idiot. I really do.
Okay.
So, for instance, like the comments he's made about global warming being a hoax pushed to us by China, that vaccines cause autism, that like all the comments, the strange comments he's made about NATO. Like I think that the taking oil from other countries and them being okay with it. I feel like a lot of the comments that he said, bringing back manufacturing from these third world countries, like I don't understand it. A lot of what he says just kind of reeks of stupidity to me. Like nothing sounds thought out. He doesn't sound informed or knowledgeable on any issue that he talks about. And a lot of this shit, and that's not going into more of the offensive shit that he said. That's just going by policy discussions that he's had.
Okay. And so that's your main issue with him. Is there anything else, I guess, that you dislike about him as a candidate?
I think he's pretty bigoted. I think that you could make an argument for pretty racially charged things that he's said and done. I don't think that he represents what America is supposed to represent in terms of accepting people and being a melting pot and all that shit. I'm not a big fan of like the white nationalism, whatever fucking shit that goes on. But I think that might be a sub point to that, but go ahead.
All right. Yeah, because I'm just trying to get an idea of where you kind of sit here and what we're going to be talking about. We'll start with the last and work our way up to the first. So when you're talking about the white nationalist shit, I haven't heard Trump come out and say that he's pro-white nationalist. In fact, if I remember right, his son that said that one of his sons, I don't know which one it was, but said David Duke should get a bullet in his head.
Yeah, sure. I don't think he's come out and specifically said I'm a white or I don't think he's even made an implication that he's a white nationalist. But he said a lot of things that make you kind of wonder. Things like bringing back racial profiling, things like being in favor of stop and frisk, being in favor of like the Papers, Please stuff going on in Arizona. Banning all Muslim immigrants from whatever countries. The comments that he made about Mexicans, the comments that he made about the federal judge who has parents that are Mexicans. Like there are only so many of these statements that you can make before you have to wonder, like, I don't know, it seems a little bit malicious. I'm not sure.
Malicious. Okay, you don't think that he sees these issues as threats or issues that are of national importance, and that's why he's addressing them rather than some preconceived notion that whites are just superior and that other races or minorities should be suppressed?
I'm not sure. I don't know. It could go that deep or not. I'm really not concerned with that, whether or not he does have those personal opinions. I'm just going by the statements that he's made. I feel reverberate with a lot of people that would have those feelings.
Well, I mean, if they resonate, they might resonate for a different reason. If I say we need a border security wall, I might be saying it because we've got people smuggling drugs or guns. I mean, this is a hypothetical country, but because we have some need for a border wall, whereas somebody who hears that and is some massive white nationalist thinks, that's right, those goddamn spics, they need to be kept out. That doesn't mean that the reason I brought up wanting a border security wall had anything to do with the people living south of it.
And if Trump's statements were, I think we need to increase our security on the border, it's a big risk for terrorism, and we need to worry about things like drugs and crime coming, like that would be one thing. But the way that he's made his statements have just made me so uncomfortable. Like, when Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're sending rapists and murderers, and some of them are good people, I think. Like, statements like that, I don't know, they just feel a little bit wrong, and it seems to belie why a lot of the people that do illegally immigrate do it. Like, not everybody that does it just because they want to come and be a criminal and whatnot. Not to mention the fact that like 40% of illegal immigrants in the United States overstay visas anyway, and people can get here by water and plane, and they travel here via vehicles as well. I don't even know if the border would do anything. But that's a separate point. I guess it's just like, I do think that there are legitimate arguments that you could make for border security, but the way that he's done it, I guess is...
when we're talking about like Trump saying something like they're not sending their best, well, their best would be people who legally immigrate here, wouldn't they? I mean, we're talking about a criminal element. They are illegally here.
Yeah, but when Trump is saying they're not sending their best, I think you can agree the implication there is that a lot of them are criminals, right? I think that's the implication.
But my point is they are criminals.
There are some.
We're talking about illegal immigrants. He didn't say I want to get rid of legal immigrants, did he? He didn't say I'm going to flush the country of every Mexican that's
okay,
ever come.
But that's not. But the implication wasn't that they're criminals because they're illegally immigrating. The implication is that they are rapists, murderers, and thieves, because those are the exact words that he said. Not that these are criminals just because they've crossed the border and they're criminals, but they're criminals because they're coming here to perpetrate violent actions.
Well, who knows why they're here? They came here illegally. I mean, his point is, if they're not the best you're going to send me are going to come here through the legal channels. The people that aren't coming here through the legal channels probably have a criminal element. They probably are criminally motivated.
Do you think that's true?
Channels.
Do you think that it's easy to immigrate easily to the United States through those waiting lists? Some of those are up to 10 years long.
Who said life was easy? Wait, no, we're having a discussion. I mean, your counterpoint to that is, well, geez, if it was just easier, they'd be legal. Well, yeah, fuck. If it was one day long, all of them would be legal, wouldn't it? We're talking about people who didn't want to go through the process that other people who legally immigrated here have gone through. They took it upon themselves to say, I'm going to come to this nation and I'm going to say, fuck it. I'm not going to obey the laws that the other people who want to come here have done.
Okay.
And I'm just going to do it my own way because I don't believe in your authority. I don't think you're doing it right. That's not the best way to start off your new nationality, is it?
So then can I go up to the Rust Belt and all of those people that cried and bitched and voted for Trump because they wanted to bring back manufacturing jobs? Can I go and say to all of those guys, you lost your job? Why didn't you get another fucking job? Why didn't you go and train for a different, career? And they go, dude, that's retraining for a whole different job when I've done this for 30, 40 years? That's really difficult. And then I could go, who's supposed to say life is easy? I don't think that's a legitimate argument. I think that shows like a severe...
I have no problem with you saying that to them.
Okay. I guess for me personally, I consider myself to be relatively compassionate, even if I, go full savage.
But I'm also realistic. Life is not fair. It is a difficult thing. If you want to get by in life, you should at least adhere to the rules of the place that you're going to be going into.
Okay, sure. But when you talk about families that are coming across the border because the living situation in Mexico is fucked, people that are risking rape or murder or thievery coming over, right? Because they're a very real risk to illegally immigrating. It's not necessarily necessarily that easy, especially depending on where you come out of. People that just want a better life for their families or a better life for their children, calling these people criminals, I feel like is a little bit cruel. Obviously, it sucks, and obviously it's bad, and we need to do something about it. But labeling all of these people as rapists and murderers and criminals, it seems to betray like any amount of empathy you might have. Like, I don't know, that I would have a very difficult time making that statement.
I have no idea what the statistics are for the people coming across, whether they're 10 years old, whether the majority of people we're talking about are all 10-year-olds, whether they're 50-year-olds. What kind of immigration are we talking? You're painting this picture of these beautiful families, of all these little children that are being led by their mothers across deserts. I have no idea what they look like. I have no idea what age group specifically they are.
Okay, but you're really quick to label all of them as thieves and rapists, so why?
No, I was quick to label them as criminals. You can back it up and listen to it, which is exactly what I said. They came here illegally. They are criminals. They are not obeying the law.
Yeah, but then when I said that not everybody coming over here is coming over here to rape and murder people, you said, well, I don't know, maybe they are. They didn't come here legally. I'm pretty sure those were your exact words. You said that was a possibility. But now when I say they're not all...
No, yeah, it absolutely is a possibility. If you're going to break the law once, what's going to prohibit you from doing it again? You're already not beholden to the law of the land.
So if you're walking out of a store because you shoplifted a candy bar, somebody should just dome you coming out the store because you shoplifted once, maybe you'll go and rape somebody again? That's an absurd statement.
Are they a legal citizen here with rights and protections? Because the illegal people coming here don't have those, do they?
Okay, yeah, but your argument is just because somebody is...
No. We're having a conversation about law applied to citizens of the United States and law applied to foreigners, illegal immigrants. So keep it in that context. We're talking about illegal immigrants. Can I go to whatever fucking country I want and behave in any manner I want and then expect them to respect me because, oh, it's too tough?
It's not about expecting somebody to respect you. It's about you saying that because they came over here illegally and broke one law, maybe they'll just go and murder a bunch of people. That's not how a lot of these people work. A lot of them come over here just to work jobs. Not to come over here and murder and shoot people just because they broke one law. They figure nothing else matters.
What I'm saying, okay. They have already demonstrated by coming here illegally that they have no problem with criminality because they broke the law the second they came here without going through the proper channels. It is not unfair to assume then that, well, if they're not going to respect the basic process of even getting in here in the first place, why would they respect anything else? If they're not going to respect coming through the border, if they're not going to respect going through the entire process that people who come here legally do, why would they, not rob? Why would they not murder? Why would they not rape? That's a fair argument to bring up.
That's not. That's an absurd argument because you make it.
No, it's not an absurd argument.
It is because you're making it sound like there's some arbitrary, or not arbitrary. There's some definitive line that you cross. Like some guy is coming across the border. I'm gonna go get a job and work and ship money back to my family because my kids live in some fucked up area. And now that I come here and got a job, well, fuck, I just broke the law crossing the border, dude. I should just fucking kill someone. That's an absolutely insane argument to make. That just because they've broken the law of coming into the state, like that's so stupid. Like I speed sometimes. Does that mean that I'm about to throw my car off the side of the road drunk driving because I'm willing to break some traffic laws? I'll break all of them? You're acting like there's no degree of difference between committing a crime. Like one crime is equal to all crimes and that every person sees it that way. That's insane.
I'm sure I'm saying that they already have a disposition to breaking the law, which they do because they broke it coming here.
Okay, and somebody driving their pregnant wife to the hospital when she's delivering has a disposition to breaking laws about speed limits. But that doesn't mean that they're going to break every single law along the way. I feel like you don't understand the motivations of why they would come over or why they would act the way that they do. By saying that.
What's their motivation? Then let's talk.
A lot of people come over just to work. A lot of people come over to work.
Okay, so a lot of people just come here to work. Where are you getting that from?
How about the fact that all the Trump supporters say they're tired of illegal immigrants coming over and stealing our jobs?
I don't give a shit about what Trump supporters say. I'm asking you, where are you getting the notion that the people that illegally immigrate here come here just to work because they have families they need to support desperately in their host country?
I can't source every single super well accepted common source claim. Like, dude, there are 13 million illegal immigrants in the United States. There are plenty of people that complain.
Accepted common source, you should have no problem.
Okay, how many jobs held by illegal immigrants, United States? Dude, people on the right complain all the time that Americans are losing jobs to illegal immigrants.
Who said I'm in the right?
I don't know. But people that generally supported Trump generally make this assertion that illegal, and I'm pretty sure that Trump has made this assertion that illegal immigrants come over here and steal jobs. Here's one link. I don't know if this is credible or not. I don't know. This is from fairus.org for immigration reform. Oh, so these people sound like they would be. So these are jobs lost. In California, 2 million jobs taken by illegal immigrants. I mean, I don't know. We can go through, I know this is true because I hear this asserted all the time. Here's a Washington Post article,
Yeah, it says the majority that come here work in low-skilled jobs, but that doesn't speak to their motivation to purely coming here, does it?
Do you think a rapist or a murderer is coming to the United States with the aspiration of being a low-skilled worker? Or does he just have to make enough money to buy a gun? Like, what do you mean, dude?
I have no idea. Maybe there are millions of Americans like you, Destiny, who think, well, shit, they obviously wouldn't come here to rape. So, I mean,
I'm sure there are some that do.
If I was a rapist and I'm looking for a country to go to, and there were people like you there that thought the only reason I'm crossing the border is to get a good job to support my wife and kid, you're fucking right. I'd go to your country.
I'm sure that there are people that come across and commit crimes, but I'm challenging your initial assertion that because somebody is willing to break one crime, they're willing to break one law. They're going to break all laws. That's an insanely ridiculous assertion.
But they're not American citizens.
Who cares? That doesn't make you a murderer or a rapist.
This is about basic fucking security. You have people coming in, using a system, or not using a system, excuse me. They're not even coming through the legal means. They're coming illegally into here. And then to say that Trump is so off base by saying it's criminality. It is.
He's not saying, dude, you're changing it up so hard. Trump is not saying it's criminal to illegally immigrate. Nobody would disagree with that statement, or maybe some extreme lefties would disagree with that statement. Nobody disagrees with that statement. The statement that he made was implying that the vast majority of Mexicans that come over here are coming here to rape and murder and steal. Not that they're coming over here to commit crimes, the crime of illegal immigration. It's tautology. Like, what? No one, obviously that's... You're a criminal if you break the law by coming into a country illegally, but just because you come into a country illegally doesn't mean that you're all of a sudden about to go on a fucking rape spree, because now that you broke one law, you can break all of them. That's the only assertion I'm challenging. I feel like we can agree that that's a little bit of a ridiculous assertion. I won't hold it against you if you back off that assertion. Like,
I'm not going to back off any assertion. I'm saying you've got two groups of people. One coming here legally, I would say isn't predisposed to criminality because they came here legally. The other that came illegally obviously doesn't respect the law of the land. What guarantee do I have that they're going to respect any other laws? I don't know them. I'm not a fucking telepath. I can't read their minds and know their souls, but I can be a little bit fucking skeptical. And I can say we need to deal with the illegal immigration problem because we have a shitload of criminals, illegal immigrants in this country, and this needs to be dealt with. We need to build some kind of a barrier or create a better system or have a better or tweak a system already existing to work better to deal with this because we don't have a handle on who the hell is coming in here.
Okay, I don't disagree with anything you've said. Border security is a real issue. What we're talking about is the way that you address the border security can make it is a little bit uncomfortable depending on who you're talking to. Again, there is nothing wrong with the statement, our border is very porous to the south. A lot of people are coming in. They could be bad people. We need to deal with it. There's nothing wrong with that statement. But when you make the statement, when Mexico sends its citizens, they're not sending their best. They're sending rapists, murderers, thieves, and some of them are good people, I imagine, that kind of a statement might rub some people a little bit wrong. You don't see how that kind of a statement could maybe look a little bit kind of bad?
Well, anything can look bad from a subjective viewpoint, yeah. It's good. Anything can rub somebody wrong. Yeah, sure. If he had said it the reverse, would you have liked it better? If he had said, we need better border security, we need more resources, we need to allocate, we need to get a handle on this illegal immigration problem because they're sending us good people, but there's some bad eggs in there. Would you have liked the reverse better? I mean, he's still talking about doing the same thing, isn't he?
No, not at all. I guess maybe, I don't know, maybe you're not like a big fan of like the English language. I don't understand. Like there are massive differences in the way that you address these things. Like the way that you phrase things to people can show like what your inner intentions are. Like
you're reading in, you're interpreting his
I'm not interpreting anything. I don't have to interpret anything he says.
You just said earlier when we started this conversation that, oh, well, you talked about Trump and white nationalism. I asked you, has he ever come out with a white nationalist statement? You said, no, but...
No, I said I wasn't a fan of white nationalism, that a lot of the shit that he said is bigoted against other races, and that statement reverberates with white nationalist people. Like...
Right. So you're thinking that Trump said this because he then, has an issue with Mexicans?
I don't know. I just have to go by what he says. Maybe or maybe not, but I know that his message reverberates with a lot of people that do. And that his statements are very, very fucking horrible. Like, the Mexican judge statements are the same thing. If Trump would have gone on, I don't remember who he was on with, when he was talking to the one dude about the federal judge. If Trump would have said, I don't think that this judge is capable of giving me a fair ruling because his parents are involved with organizations that are very pro-Mexico, and the fact that I am, planning to deal with the border security and whatnot might make him biased against me, that statement is perfectly acceptable. And you cannot attack that. That's a totally valid argument. Or, I mean, you could argue against it, but that's totally valid. But that's not what he said. What he said was, I don't know if anybody with Mexican parents can give me a fair ruling. Do you not see how these statements are entirely separate statements and carry entirely different meanings? Or do those statements just sound like two of the same to you?
what I'm trying to source through here as we talk about this, because we're going through his different policies, we're going through his different approaches and the things that he said, is do you disagree with what he's putting up, or are you disagreeing with the way he's saying it because of the way it's interpreted?
I mean, like, do we live in a pretend world where you can just say anything and then people are expected to extract exactly what you meant out of it? Like, I don't understand. Like, that's not how the world works. That's not how any position, any job in any company ever, in any company, in any public office, in any family position, in a position with a relationship, you can't get away with saying something and phrasing it like an idiot.
You absolutely can.
No, you can't.
He is president.
Yeah, because enough people voted for him. But
well, I mean, didn't Jeb Bush say you can't insult your way into the White House? Trump did.
I'm not talking about anything that Jeb Bush said. I'm just saying that you can't say that I can't criticize Trump for his statements because, well, you're just taking them one way.
I never said you couldn't criticize him. I'm just disagreeing with the way that you're criticizing. That's all. I didn't say you can't do it. I'm not fucking holding a gun to your head here.
Okay, I mean, I like to take people's statements at face value to figure out like what exactly they're meaning, and I don't like to. I don't know. I feel like trying to give somebody hardcore the benefit of the doubt and shoehorn them into my own personal beliefs because what they said can kind of be molded to it. I feel like that's a little bit like intellectually dishonest. So I try to take people at face value. I don't know. When somebody makes a statement, Mexico is sending when Mexico's sending people, they're not sending their best. They're sending rapists, murderers, thieves, and some of them are good people, I imagine. I feel like there's a pretty obvious way to take that statement, and then I feel like you can bend it and stretch it into like, well, he didn't mean that like a lot of Mexicans are rapists and stuff. He just meant that we needed to work on border security. Like, then why couldn't he just say that we need to work on border security?
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, even looking at the statement of they're not sending their best, he's referring to illegal immigration, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about, obviously. Do you think that the illegal immigrants that came here are the best? Do you think it's made up of nothing but Olympians and
no, of course not.
People with 4-point GPAs and people that worked as executives at major companies and just all these talented, skilled individuals? Do you think when he says they're not sending us their best, that's not a fair statement?
No. Or no. I agree. They're not sending their best, and that on its own is a fine statement. A little bit crass, but that's an okay statement. But when you go a step further and you say that they're sending rapists and murderers and thieves, do you not see how that's like a step further into that?
But have there been illegal immigrants that came here and killed and raped and stole?
Sure, but you're making it sound like that's the majority of immigrants that are coming over.
Well, that's how you read his comment, yeah.
Because that's how his comment sounded in the English language.
I'm taking into account, I guess, kind of how Trump phrases things and how he talks bigly. Trump's kind of got a bizarre way of fucking speaking. So I guess I filter it through that lens.
Okay, do you understand the issues then when his supporters will filter every stupid thing he says into being something intelligent, but then when the opposite does it, everything they say is taken at face value and even is extrapolated into further insanity? Like, I mean, if that's your defense, that you're going to filter what Trump says because he's got a certain way of speaking, then I guess we can just agree to disagree or whatever. Like, because I can't touch you there. If you like, that's like the faith argument for the Bible. Like, if you're going to believe it on faith, like if you have faith in Trump that what he's saying is a certain thing, then I can't touch you. Like, we can move on to the next thing, I guess.
Well, yeah, fine. Let's move on to the next thing.
Sure.
What next thing are we talking about?
I don't remember. You said we were going to go back. You're driving the Audi, dude. So I'm just in the back seat.
Okay, well, you brought up the Rust Belt. You brought something about manufacturing jobs.
Oh, yeah.
That thought that Trump was going to bring back jobs somehow, manufacturing jobs.
Yeah, I think that was a big appeal to those people.
He couldn't do it. What do you think that he would fail at being able to? Why do you think that he's unable to fulfill that promise of getting people jobs?
Because the majority of those jobs have already been lost to manufacturing. Even in countries that those jobs were outsourced to, those people are losing the jobs to automation. Even in China, even in Mexico. There's no way that you're going to bring back manufacturing in the United States, and then even if you did, make those jobs available to the people somehow. Like, this is just never going to happen. I haven't seen any economist that agrees with that point of view. And the figures that I've read is up to like, hold on, because I know you'll look for a figure. I think like 88% of jobs, here you go. This is a Fortune.com article. I think they even lean right a little bit. 88% of jobs have been estimated to have been lost to automation. Like, and these are automation in countries where the labor is already insanely low. I don't think those jobs are ever coming back.
Don't blame jobs for taking U.S. Don't blame China for taking U.S. jobs. Okay. So you think that what exactly has he promised that you think he's unable to fulfill, I guess? What exact statement has Trump said that the supporters in the Rust Belt are listening to? Are we talking about import-export? Are we talking about tariffs? What exactly?
He's talking about tariffing every single country or putting a tariff on all imports until competition is competitive again, or manufacturing is competitive again in the United States, is what he said.
Okay. Do you think that Do you think that the United States not having as strong a manufacturing base and as strong an export as it used to have has hurt us economically. Would you agree with something like, I don't know if you've ever read the book American Theocracy, but that was one of the 3 pillars they kind of talked about being a major shift in America's diminishing power,
Yeah, well, diminishing power. I don't know in terms of when you say power, I don't know what that means. I know that we've shifted from a manufacturing economy and we're shifting into a service-based economy. I mean, a while ago, like, I guess, like, in theory, I like the idea of us manufacturing our own shit. But, I mean, economics isn't a zero-sum game. If Mexico and China can make our shit for much cheaper, that means that we have more money for other things, right? Lower-class people that can't afford products that, can spend a greater percentage of their income on things that aren't bare necessities, like clothing or whatever the fuck you would buy at Walmart. I mean, I buy into the idea that manufacturing in other countries and utilizing their comparative advantage is probably overall better for everybody involved. And it also makes those countries better off as well, so...
Oh, okay. So you've got a country like Mexico, you got a country like China. We put tariffs on them, so it costs them. The cost becomes prohibitive for them to come in and compete. But you don't think that we can catch up to that because we'll have automation replace workers anyway?
Well, sure. I mean, the standards of living for people in Mexico or China, ignoring automation, were already non-competitive, right? I don't think you could get away with paying an American worker what you pay a Chinese manufacturer,
No, of course
right?
not.
So then when you factor in that even at those absurdly low wages, they're also automating jobs, even still, how does that fare for the American worker then that wants a manufacturing job? Like, how much more expensive would those products have to be to cover that labor?
To cover the difference, I have no clue, to be honest with you. I really don't.
And this is something like if Trump would have spoken more on this, then maybe I could have bought into it more. But everything that he said just kind of sounded like a meme. Like, I'm just going to tariff the fuck out of everybody. We've tried tariffing individual products before, but we've ended up buying them from other places. There's a report. I can search for it if you want. But we tried to make our tire industry more competitive, and we were buying all of our tires from like China. So we put a tariff on imports from China for tires specifically, and then we started buying all of them from India. And then when we tariffed that, they just started buying. So the only way would have been to tariff it from literally all over the world, like every single import on tires, to protect our industry. But that at the end of the day, prices become so expensive that it's prohibitive, and it doesn't really make sense to do it. Like, you just end up fucking everybody over, right?
Okay. So do you think that Trump's game with this then, talking about tariffs and bringing jobs back, do you think he's trying to play some kind of an economic mind fuck with these people?
Not an economic. He's just trying to appeal to a certain demographic.
No, I'm not talking about Americans. I'm talking about foreign companies. We're talking about like China and Mexico, these places that are creating these products. You make it prohibitively expensive for them to bring it in. They're going to be losing a profit. I mean, do you think that this is supposed to give him some kind of leg up, that he's going to renegotiate something, that he's just going to let the tariff sit and take the money and then reinvest it somehow into these areas in the Rust Belt? What
I don't think he's going to do anything with it. There's nothing that he can do. These countries are manufacturing products for us because they're just better than us at it. Like, that's it. Like, there's nothing more to be done there. Everything else betrays how capitalism works. You're just putting artificial price floors and artificial pricing mechanisms to try to disrupt the market. I don't see how there's any positive government action that could be taken there that would be a net positive for the American.
Well, who benefits most, I suppose, from Chinese industry, Mexican industry? Are we importing the most, or are other countries importing the most?
If you believe in comparative advantage, everybody benefits because it's not a zero-sum game. You have countries that can do some things better than other countries. America does service better than China does service, or Mexico does service. Mexico and China do manufacturing better than America does manufacturing. So the idea is you let everybody work at what they're strongest at, and then everybody gains, is the idea. That everybody is better off as a result of that kind of, policy.
No, what I mean is, who are they exporting to? Is the majority of Chinese goods, are they being exported to the U.S., or are they the majority going to like the U.K.? Are they going to Russia?
I feel like I'm pretty sure the United States is the largest single export partner to the Chinese. I could be wrong on that.
Okay, and when
yeah, we are China's largest trading partner. Yes.
Oh, okay, and we're talking about Mexico when they're exporting and we're importing. Are we their largest importer from these types of jobs, from these types of industries that he's talking about from, I guess, that country? Or it's Mexican goods, or Mexican goods going to South American countries instead, Russia, the UK, Brazil, whatever?
Mexico import. I'm pretty sure the United States is one of the large, especially after negotiating NAFTA. Mexico is currently our third largest goods trading partner. I don't know what we are to Mexico. I imagine we're one of their largest.
So if we put these tariffs in place on these different countries, on these different companies, what are they going to do then? I mean, if we're the ones taking the majority of their goods, if we're consuming the majority of their goods, how do they compete?
Raise prices?
Right. So, do you think that he's trying to create a situation where they have to raise prices? These become higher when they're on the American market. People don't want to pay that, so an American company comes in and tries to compete with them. I mean, we're not just factoring in the tariff cost; we're factoring in them raising the prices when they're sending it to whoever the distributor is, whoever their middleman is going to be before it gets put on a Walmart shelf.
Yeah, but if you think the margins are so low, why wouldn't somebody in America be competing already? Like, if the margins are so low that a little bit of a tariff bump is going to make manufacturing competitive again suddenly, I feel like for people to move all of their manufacturing out of the United States, even against severe public backlash, what was that air conditioner company in, was it Arizona or New Mexico? The big
I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, the big air, like, to face public backlash like that, and then to go and build or rent an entirely new factory and to close down everything that's in the United States, I feel like those margins must be like significant. So if we were to put a tariff, it would have to be a significant one, right? Would you agree with that? That it would probably have to be more than a little. And if you put a significant tariff to bring jobs back to the United States, and even somehow, and we'll even estimate somehow maybe you magically avoid automating all these jobs, which I don't know how you would make that illegal, I guess. How are you going to get all of these people that rely on these poor products that are now having to spend a greater percentage of their income on these products? How are these people going to be okay with it? It seems like you're just hurting the lowest class of citizens at that point.
I figure like you're putting tariffs in place, it creates a bit of a domino effect where they're raising prices because they want to keep their profit margins where they are. This allows an American company to maybe take, I mean, you've got multiple factors. You're giving tax incentives maybe to American manufacturers or companies that come up to fill this void. So they've got a bit of a tax break. This guy's getting tariffed and he's raised his prices. It's now somewhat leveled the playing field. And I have no idea what that, these
at that point,
on top of the other.
Yeah, but at that point, you're talking about a very non-Republican, non-Trump idea. You're talking about expanding government and subsidizing an industry. So where is that money going to come from? Because now what you've done is you've moved jobs from China to the United States, and now you're paying for it with American taxpayer dollars. If you're talking about giving preferential tax treatment or subsidies, so now you're like a Democrat. You're just throwing money at an industry to keep it alive and expanding government and doing so, which is one of the things that Trump was supposed to be against, right? I think even in his official statements, he said he's want to cut 2 federal jobs for every one new one he instates. He wants to put a freeze. Oh, that was on regulations. He wants to freeze, I think, all federal funding, I think, for employees, for non-essential employees. I think that was in his thing. I don't have to bring it up again. But like everything that he said in his plan has been pretty big on decreasing the size of the federal government, right?
But we're talking about startup companies. We're talking about small to mid-sized. I mean, maybe there probably are going to be large ones that would take advantage of that, and we can talk on that. But he has gone on record, if I'm correct on this, and said that he wants to get rid of regulations for small business owners, for medium-sized business owners. He wants to try to create a more favorable tax system for them so they can be competitive, so they can compete.
I mean, I get like not to oversimplify the issue, but like say you have 2 kids and one is way better at making PB&J and the other is way better at pouring glasses of milk, and they each do this like so much better. Why would you switch their roles and put in a whole bunch of artificial, market unfriendly, capitalism unfriendly policies in place to make them catch up when instead both of them can just do what they're best at, produce more products for both sides, and then take that extra money and invest it into other areas of the economy? I guess I don't understand why you would spend so much money protecting an industry that is not competitive without massive government subsidization that would have to be paid for with American taxpayer dollars. Like, it just seems like...
Well, maybe the child that's best at making PB&J, you're saying we've got 2 kids, maybe that kid's from the house next door, and maybe I want my child to be the best PB&J maker. Maybe I want to give them a leg up rather than the kid from next door.
Yeah, but then everybody just has less money and everybody loses. Why would you want your kid to try to catch up when the other kid is already making PBJs like crazy? Your kid has more time and more money to do what he wants. Like would have more money to do what we want, investing in other areas of the economy. If China can manufacture better than us, just let them manufacture. We can spend that money and train our people to do other things that we're better at, like the comparative advantages, right?
Well, yeah, but you're talking about moving into an entirely service-based industry.
Which is essentially what we're...
They will always outcompete us then.
Exactly,
if we're not trying to address it, if we're not trying to catch up, obviously they have a head start. They're going to be way ahead of us on that. So, but what I'm saying is you have that much faith in the service industry that some technology later on is not going to come out that's going to completely make it irrelevant. I mean, then what do we do? Now we don't have manufacturing jobs and we're fucked in the service industry.
I mean, that's a pretty big hypothetical. Like, do you think China's scared right now that some new innovative technology is going to come out that's going to destroy their manufacturing industry? I mean... You
linked me to an article that said that it's automated at this point. So
yeah, but it's still... the industry is still in their country.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is because they've had a chance to build up towards it.
We've been building our service industry the entire time. How is China magically going to discover something that's going to like make them like, well, you're a new tech startup. You're not going to San Francisco anymore. You're going over to Beijing or some shit like...
how do we lose our grip on the manufacturing base in the United States in the first place?
By opening our markets and initiating a trade with other countries that are developing massive bases of people that are entering job markets that historically weren't before. China and India have been massively developing countries for a long time. We used to have all of our own tech people here too, and now we import jobs via the H-1B system, which I think is shit from fucking India. I mean,
and we outsource a ton of our service industry to India.
Sure, yeah.
So what I'm saying is we used to be number one in manufacturing. We're not anymore. We've lost that.
Mm-hmm.
To think that we're going to hold on to this service industry and that we're going to be secure in that and that's going to be the golden next 50 years, I think is wishful thinking.
I mean, I think if you're somebody like Trump, and I know a lot of people who like Trump, and I know my parents who love Trump, then you think America is great and America can do great things and America is an awesome country, then so like what you're telling me is Americans are so naturally fucking horrible at everything that we need to protect all of our industry and service so hard, because if we don't, we're going to lose it to everybody else in the world. I don't know, that kind of sounds sad to me. Like
I think that it makes sense for a nation to have its own interests at heart. I don't think that that's an unfair statement. I think that putting its own citizens first ahead of other countries' citizens isn't a terrible thing to say. I think that trying to create a situation where people in the United States have jobs and a secure living isn't a terrible thing to say. Yeah,
but a lot of those comparative advantages come with that too. Like the fact that we get industry or that we get so much manufacturing from China means that poorer citizens don't have to make as much money to be able to afford clothes, or that they are able to spend a greater portion of their income on things like entertainment. Even poor people in the United States largely have access to the internet and computers because a lot of this manufacturing is done in China, and you can buy a fucking crazy ass cell phone with 4,000 times more power than the space shuttle for $300. Like a lot of that is the result of these manufacturing jobs being available in these countries that can do it so efficiently.
So wait, are you saying that you think the guy that doesn't have a job is happy because the Chinese manufacturer can make him, Foxconn can make him an iPhone that only costs $200? You think that that's a good trade? That you think that he's satisfied if you came up to him and said, we can, give you a $200 iPhone and no job, or we can create a system where you're going to have a job, but that iPhone's going to cost $300? No,
but do you think that all the people that worked, or all of the people that have to spend like a huge amount of money on shit products are happy that they're getting a few people, highly protected jobs because they don't want to let other countries compete? Like, you're trying to find like one specific loser. Like, does somebody lose out on a job? Yeah, sure, but that could be rectified. You train for a different area. We haven't focused on those industries, but you train for a different career. You train to do something else besides manufacturing. Like, your alternative is, well, we bring back some manufacturing jobs, keep some people happy, and now every single poor person in the United States has to pay a higher percentage of their income on necessary products. Like, do you think those people are happy with that?
Well, what percentage of those poor people aren't going to be working? I mean, this comes down to numbers, I guess, on what we're talking about.
Whatever the numbers are, I guarantee you we're not bringing back tens of millions of manufacturing jobs. And again, we're still ignoring the fact that so many jobs. America's still the second largest exporter of goods in the world, right? We've already automated a lot of our own work. The idea that we're bringing back manufacturing from other countries and not automating it is crazy. That will never happen.
Okay. I guess my point would be this, kind of looking at the manufacturing thing and then even touching back on the illegal immigration thing when we're talking about, are they coming here for jobs? And you link me to, I don't know what was this, Fortune.com article? Or no, not the Fortune.com, the Washington Post one talking about the jobs they're working. You're looking at a situation where you create a system that's more beneficial to United States citizens than it is to a foreign country. You bring back manufacturing jobs. Let's say that it doesn't cover the amount of unemployed that we have in the country. That's fair enough. I agree with you on that. But you're also getting rid of illegal immigrants. You're also getting rid of people that are taking job positions. And I'm not saying that's in the manufacturing industry. I'm just saying that those are positions that could be filled.
Wait, how would you get rid of illegal immigrants?
By deporting them.
But what does that have to do with the job thing? Oh, you're assuming that if he deports all the illegals, that's going to free up a lot of jobs for Americans, and then
a percentage of them, yeah.
Oh. I guess if he's able to do it. I mean, Obama's been doing it at record numbers, and we still have a lot of illegals here. I feel like the solution to the illegal immigration thing is a very comprehensive one that's going to have to rely on working a lot with Mexico. Putting a wall up won't stop the people that overstay visas, which is 40% of our illegal immigrants. It won't stop the people or the drugs that get here via plane, boat, or car already.
Right. Well, the 40% that are overstaying visas, we already know where they are, so that shouldn't be too hard to round them up, should it?
I mean, they haven't yet. And again, Obama has
to a degree.
Sure,
right?
but Obama has deported more than fucking any other president in the history of the United States. Obama's been crazy in abortion. But even at that, I mean, like, they're still here. And I mean, like, do we want to be spending money all this time? I feel this is getting off into the Mexico thing, but like, I feel like a better solution to Mexico would be working with Mexico until its problems are solved in order to make it so that people don't want to illegally immigrate from there. I feel like that's like a good solution moving forward that ensures the security of both of our countries. Like,
oh, I have no problem with Mexico building Mexico up, but I'm not going to invest in their infrastructure and sort out their problems. I mean, if we already have this deficit of jobs in the United States, if we already have this issue of our
okay, but
economy,
what if? But it also, because we're kind of, yeah, I'm guessing you hate the word globalized or whatever.
I don't give a shit about the word globalized.
Okay,
Go ahead.
so we're kind of a globalized economy, right? Everybody, it kind of works with other people. Like whether you like it or not, the entire world economy is interconnected. Having a better, stronger Mexico serves the interests of the United States so much, right? Like how many illegal immigrants come into the United States from Canada, right? Or how many terrorists are going to try to sneak in through Canada? Canada's a functioning country, functioning border guards. Everybody in that country, for the most part, gets along pretty well, right? As compared to Mexico, where half the place is ran by the fucking cartels. Why wouldn't you want Mexico to be a strong country, even if you have to invest a little bit in building them up, so that their border is taken care of, so that people aren't fleeing en masse, illegally immigrating over here, so that people aren't running massive, drug schemes up here into the United States with the help of the government doing it sometimes, because a lot of the cartel people get paid for that. Like,
what is the feasibility of that, though? And what is the investment we'd be talking about? It's ludicrous to think that you could invest that much and get involved that much in Mexican. First, Mexico is sovereign. There's no guarantee they're even going to let us interfere in any way that would be beneficial to us or them. Next, you have to deal with the mass amount of capital you'd need.
As much capital as you would need to build a wall spanning the entire border, maybe?
Well, at least that we know has a beneficial effect for us.
But we don't know if that has a beneficial effect.
We're speculating that
we know that Mexico being
in Mexico,
if Mexico was as built up as Canada, we know that would be beneficial.
You're crazy if you're talking about the United States investing in Mexico.
Not necessarily investing as much, but if we are going to invest any money at all, why not put it in a positive direction that we know will help us, rather than fucking the country even more, trying to even more? Like we're gonna.
So I want to make sure I understand this. So if we had a hypothetical candidate that was running against like Trump or Bernie or Hillary, or whatever, it doesn't matter. You think it would be? You don't think it would sound insane for them to go up? And what is the cost that Trump was quoting for the wall?
I don't even know. It's a different number every time.
Yeah,
but Mexico's paying for it and building it, so it doesn't matter.
Okay, but let's say billions. Fair.
Sure.
Okay. Do you think if a candidate got up there and said, the way we can make our country better is by actually giving Mexico billions and billions of dollars? If they're just like Canada, we're going to benefit from that. That's insane.
I mean, we spent that money rebuilding Iraq, and we didn't get fuck all for that. You know, if you want to know what you want to know,
Iraq was stupid.
I can tell you the real solution to Mexico is that if they could find a way to insert Islamic terrorists into the cartels, we would have cleaned up Mexico a long fucking time ago. Like, if there were terrorists that ran the fucking cartels instead of just Mexican people, we would be fucking down there in a heartbeat to clean that place up. Now, I'm not saying that don't misunderstand me. I'm not saying that we just need to give them, a small loan of $100 trillion to rebuild the country. I don't think that's possible. I'm not that naive. I don't think it's possible for America single-handedly even to help Mexico become an awesome superpower that is going to have no problems. I'm just saying that if we were going to move in some direction that was beneficial, I feel like that direction is something that helps Mexico build itself up to be in a similar position as Canada, right? We did it with NAFTA, right? Mexico benefited a lot in manufacturing and in certain agricultural fields with NAFTA. We helped them there. They got a lot of jobs out of that. Like, I just feel like moving in that direction is more beneficial and creates a better future than trying to put up a giant wall across a 2,500 or whatever mile border and then expecting that is going to fix everything when it won't. When they're still we're just throwing money at nothing at that point, I feel.
Well, and if we're talking about like a globalized world, a globalized economy, why stop at Mexico? I mean, couldn't we solve all our problems by bringing everybody up to a first world nation status?
I mean, we did that with Japan.
No, I mean everybody.
I don't know about everybody.
Iran,
I'm talking to
Syria. Let's go to Chad and Sierra Leone, right?
I mean, those countries don't share one of the largest borders in the world with us. I mean, I'm talking about Mexico because Mexico shares a massive border with us. Like, we have 13 million illegal immigrants in our country. They're not coming from Chad or from Uganda. Like, they're not coming right. They're coming from Mexico.
I understand that, but what I'm saying is if you're saying it's you're saying if we fix Mexico, problems with Mexico go away. Well, we've got problems with other nations. So would you be in support of bringing them up to first world status let's go into Syria, let's go into wherever, and just give them a shitload of money until they're happy.
No, because we don't get the same kind of problems we do with those countries as we do from Mexico. Mexico's on a whole nother level. We don't get problems from Syria or problems from other countries anywhere near the same way that we get problems from Mexico, because we share a massive border with Mexico.
Okay, so we're not talking about globalized economy. We're just talking about continental economy right now, right?
Sure.
That's what you brought up, globalization.
When I brought up globalization, I'm talking about the concept that countries are interdependent on one another, whether you like it or not, and that putting up a wall between two countries is an asinine idea, was the point that I was trying to make. But yeah, we're talking about continentalization and not globalization, I guess, to be exactly...
Well, no, the reason I bring it up is if you're saying that countries are interdependent on one another, and that if one country is doing well, another country does well, where does that line of logic stop? So, I mean, is it proximity? How far?
Well, I mean, for the most part, we try to help most people, I think, when we engage in trade with them and when we engage in trade deals with them. I think we try to make it so that most people come out okay. But I mean, I'm not talking.
We're not talking about trade deals. We're talking about just direct investment. At least
maybe it doesn't have to be direct investment. Maybe it does have to be in the form of trade deals. Trump is on record saying that he wants to completely dismantle NAFTA and go back to the drawing board. Trump is on record saying he wants to build a wall. These are monies that are being invested in a very specific thing that I'm saying could be spent in a different way. Now, if you don't want to build the wall at all, I mean, I guess that's okay too. But I'm just saying that if you're going to if we were talking about building a massive wall between Iran and Iraq, then I would say the same thing there. Like, well, maybe that money can be better used elsewhere, right? But we're not talking about building a massive wall there. We're talking about a massive financial investment on our southern border. And what I'm saying is, why not make a massive financial investment instead in a southern country? I don't know if either idea is good, but I would rather the money go towards building a long-term sustainable future rather than putting up a big Band-Aid that might not even help at all.
I think it's just foolish. I guess this is where we're going to disagree. I can't see. I can't see that as being sane to say that, well, the way we fix our issues with Mexico is just to give them a shit ton of money.
It's not just give them a shit ton of money. It's engage in deals and activity with regulations and whatnot that hopefully build them.
How are we going to do that? How are we going to go and tell Mexico, well, you've got problems with cartels, you've got problems with illegal immigration, you've got corruption in your government, you've got all these issues. Here we are, the great America coming to save you, and we're going to tell you how to run things. Do you think a sovereign nation is going to say, yeah, sure?
I mean, we did it in Libya with Gaddafi. We're doing it in Syria with Assad. We did it in Iraq with Saddam. Why do we have all of this investment in these other countries where we go and try to depose leaders and control the government there, but we're not concerned with the biggest security risk to our country south of our border? Like, you don't think that America could support some pro-Mexico leadership that was for getting rid of dictators, that was for getting rid of cartel influence all over the country? You don't think that we could provide some kind of financial assistance, some kind of military assistance if they have big cartel targets? We've ran over 9,000 sorties bombing ISIS, which means fuck all to us, really, in the Middle East. Why can't we run any of those sorties south of the border into fucking cartel compounds? Like, I don't know. We have no interest in anything going on over there, but we have all this interest in other parts of the world. Don't you think it would serve us better to work towards helping Mexico? I think there are ways to do it. Sure, they're a sovereign nation, but that doesn't mean they won't take help from anybody.
Well, you bring up like Hussein, Gaddafi, all of these different things. Are the justification we used to go into there where they were dictators? So are you saying that Mexico's run by a dictator? You want to use sorties in Mexico?
No, that might have been the justification for it, but the rationale was for American interest, right? We don't give a fuck if some dude is a random ass fucking dictator. It's for American interests, because there are dictators all over the fucking world and fucking Africa and shit that we don't give a fuck about. But the Middle East has interesting territory for the United States because of its position towards Russia that we are very interested in.
You don't want to build a wall. Instead, you want to use a military approach and run sorties over drug cartels.
Sure, and work with Mexico to rebuild its country. Yeah, sure, if we're going to invest money into something, why not in making Mexico better so that a bunch of fucking people don't run away from that country into ours?
Or you could just block them out with a giant wall.
But we don't even know if that'll work.
Wait, sure we don't. You're right. We don't know if it'll work. It might not.
Like,
you're right.
I guess, like, if I could see in my future, like 30 years from now, if I could look at the world, I feel like if you had two worlds, one where Canada and the United States are strong, and we've got this impenetrable fucking, post-apocalyptic wall between the American and Mexico border with, like, laser drones annihilating anybody trying to cross, versus a world where Mexico to the south of us is a strong, independent country that doesn't have all these issues with the cartels, that is a good and strong trading partner with the United States, that is a strong ally to the United States. Like, why wouldn't you prefer Mexico to be, that could maybe help us with our economy? They could have manufacturing better and different kinds of their economies could be better, that work as trading partners for us. Like, why wouldn't we want that future instead of the one where we just say, fuck them and build a wall? Like, if we're going to invest money into it, like...
because it would come off to the average person, I would imagine, when they're looking at their situation where they don't have a good job, or maybe they don't have a job, where they feel like that they're being ignored, or that they're in poverty, or that they're having issues, and then they hear the American government is going to invest all this fucking money in Mexico because eventually it's going to pay off. That just seems like, to the average person, to the average voter, that would be a horrendous fucking policy statement to make.
I mean, I'm not talking about how the average voter in the Rust Belt thinks that Trump is bringing back manufacturing jobs, which is an even more ridiculous statement. I don't know how you would sell it to the public, or maybe you would have to go Hillary Clinton's route of private and public position or something. I'm not saying that selling this to the public would be easy. That's why that was my half joke earlier, was that you would have to convince the public that there were fucking Islamic terrorists down running the Mexican cartels, because if they were, then we would, if we did everything in Mexico that we did in Iraq, how much better would that be for the United States? Obviously, it's a much fucking bigger country, but like, if we were to work on cleaning up that country as much as we did in fucking Iraq, as much as we tried to do in Syria, as much as we kind of did in Libya, like, I don't know, I feel like
I don't know if I take the military approach of Iraq, Afghanistan, Libya, and fucking Mexico. I don't know if that will work out very well.
I mean, it may or may not, but the wall is an absolutely fucking absurd idea, and there's no proof that it'll help us even a little bit. Like,
Trump's talking about building a wall. You're talking about waging essentially a fucking war.
I'm not talking about waging a war. I'm talking about helping a government that wants to rebuild itself and free itself of cartel influence. I mean, I guess I don't think we're going to get through on this. Like, you understand that a wall is stupid, right? That a wall, there's no evidence that a wall will help. People dig holes under it, people fly over it, people boat around it, and people drive through it. Like, there's no evidence whatsoever that a wall is going to help us. And then, as long as Mexico is a fucking wild card to the south, that's always going to be a detriment to the United States and our interests in the future, right? You agree with that, at least, right?
Do I agree with you telling me that a wall is stupid? No, I don't agree with you on that.
Okay, so if people can come over the wall, dig under the wall, boat around the wall, and drive through the wall, and overstay visas, if people can get through all these different ways, if illegal immigration is a multi-$100 billion a year industry, if you don't believe that, I can find your... Do you think that building a wall and spending all that money on building the wall, you think that that serves American interests?
Do you live in a house with no doors? I mean, I can kick your door in, right? I can break your lock, can't I? Why do you have a door?
Because people aren't boating into my house, people aren't digging holes to get into my house, and people aren't overstaying visas to stay in my house.
I could walk through an open entryway, right? But you put a door in the way. But I can still kick it open, can't I? So why would you waste the money?
Because it keeps the air in my house, and because it's the first line of defense, it keeps away most people? I don't know. Because there's not $100 billion annual industry in getting into my house? I feel like this isn't a great comparison. Like,
no, I feel like it is a good comparison. You're talking about like, well, shit, we can't control the border at all, so fuck it, let's not really address it. Or a wall is the wrong approach because people can dig under it or go over
to some extent, you know that people do this, right? Like, if you go into a really good neighborhood, if you go into the country, these are people that don't lock their doors. Why? Because they trust their neighbors. Like, and I live in fucking Nebraska. I don't know where you live, but that's really common, especially if you go out west. People never fucking lock the doors in the house. That's bizarre as shit to some people. But if you move into a really fucking shitty area, you got really shitty neighbors, you better believe you got a fucking alarm system and fucking ADT and locks.
Really shitty neighbors. Destiny, we have really shitty neighbors.
Okay, and what I'm saying is we have the opportunity, and what I'm saying is we have the opportunity to work towards making these neighbors better, or trying to erect a whole bunch of fucking walls when it's already... Do you think that if I doxed you and wanted to find your house and break in with 50 fucking people with AK-47 shit, do you think that your door is going to help you?
Well, it's going to make it a little bit more difficult than if
but not really, dude. Not really. No, I'll come in through a window.
You don't think that having a door and not having a door, there's no difference to you.
If I really wanted to get in and I was being paid for it, nah, of course not. No way. Kind of like illegal immigration in the United States now. People really want to get in and they're being paid hundreds of billions of dollars to make this happen. No, I don't think a fucking wall is going to help. People have already dug under some of the fucking walls that we have in place. Like, you can go and find pictures of dig under wall, Mexico, United States border, and find evidence of that. Like, and people are already getting in other ways. Like, you're talking about building a door without having a roof on your house, or with having a lake that connects to your living room that doesn't have a wall on it. Like, this is the equivalent of having a door here. Like,
and we have a Coast Guard, and we have things.
Dog, the Coast Guard, dude, part of my family swam here. I have Cuban ancestors, okay? The Coast Guard doesn't even catch people swimming from Cuba. Obviously, they don't get all of the people coming through bringing fucking drugs and shit.
Yeah, but they get some of them, don't they? And if we had no Coast Guard, they'd all get in. And if we don't have a wall in place, anybody can just walk in.
How hard, dude, if you wanted to smoke a joint, how hard would it be for you to find fucking marijuana right now? How hard would it be for you to find cocaine or heroin right now, dude? Drugs are ubiquitous in the United States. The Coast Guard doesn't do fucking shit. Come on, let's be real, dude. You really think the Coast Guard plays a major role in keeping drugs out of the United States of America? Like, I could go, even in fucking shitty Omaha, Nebraska, I could go and find any drug that I want if I go downtown and talk to the right people.
Why are we talking about drugs? I was talking about people.
Because you're talking about the Coast Guard's ability to keep these people out. They fucking suck at it.
Right, but we're talking about two different things. What I'm saying is the Coast Guard does apprehend people. You're telling me the Coast Guard has no record of stopping anybody from immigrating into the United States?
No, I'm saying that they're largely irrelevant, which they are.
So they have no effect, is what I'm asking.
Pretty much, like negligible effect, I would say.
A negligible effect.
Yeah.
So we could just do away with them.
Probably not do away completely, but I don't think they do much because the Coast Guard helps with like finding capsized ships and getting people and whatnot. And
well, I mean, where you're talking about Cuba, right? Like the negligible effect at stopping people from coming from Cuba or from wherever the fuck they're boating in from. So should we just build up the economies of Cuba and other places then, so they don't feel the need?
Yeah,
to boat
that's
over?
part of what we're doing in Cuba. That's why we lifted the embargo in Cuba. That's why we've got travel going to Cuba. That's why a bunch of people, Trump included, are investing. Trump included are investing in Cuban real estate.
Sorties and investing billions of dollars like you're talking about.
Cuba doesn't have the same problems that Mexico has. Cuba doesn't need a military solution. Mexico probably does.
Your world outview seems to be that if I just give everybody the shit that I have, they'll stop picking on me. I mean, that seems ludicrous
What?
to
It's
me.
not about giving anybody shit.
Yes, it is. You're like, I'm going to build you up so you don't come and take it from me. You're still getting fucking robbed, man. You're still
Except you're not,
out.
dog. These are humans. These are people. We aren't fucking 4-year-olds that have 4 toys in front of us to play with, and we don't want to share it with fucking Ricky Bobby next to us because we don't want them taking our fucking toys. These are humans and people that live in dynamic countries that interact with us on an everyday basis, right? If people to the south, and these are humans. If people to the south, and I'm not even saying this, I'm sorry, I'm not even saying this as a humanitarian. Fuck the people to the south. Even if you don't like the people to the south, if they were doing better over there, they wouldn't fucking come over here. So even if you're the biggest fucking wetback spectator in the entire United States, the best thing for you is for Mexico to be a strong, independent country that doesn't have people constantly trying to run away from it to get over here. Like, it works out the best for everybody. Even the most racist of people would be happy to know that Mexico is independent enough not to have people fucking coming over here.
Again, it sounds like your solution or what you propose is, I'm just going to give them so much stuff they don't come and take it.
It's not about giving people. Why are you taking my arguments and making them sound so absurd?
Because we're talking about capital and investment time.
Why do we make NAFTA? It sounds like all we want to do is just give them all of our manufacturing jobs. Do you think that's what NAFTA is? Should we just roll back on?
We're not talking about financial investment. That is something you're giving them. It's not some fucking imaginary thing, is it?
Sure, but we're talking about financial investment in a wall as well. Are we not? Where's that money coming from? Mexico's not fucking paying for it, dude. It's not going to happen. So where are the money in the workforce going to come for the wall? You're already throwing money at it. Why not
once we put that fucking wall up, it's going to stand. We don't know if
But the wall's not going to do anything.
We don't know if we invest in Mexico, if the corruption's not just going to come right the fuck back in 5 years later.
I don't know, dude.
I
feel like we have. No. We have a very different understanding of how effective the wall is. Like, I don't think the wall will contribute anything towards the safety of the United States of America. It's a multi-hundred billion. I think there was even a big fucking. I can find you a big Time article that talks about the illegal immigration racket and how much money is involved. In all of this fucking shit. Like, the idea that putting up a wall is going to help when so many people come in so many different ways is such an absurd idea. We're never going to grin it. Like, if you're going to throw money at it, if you wanted to give me a choice between putting up a wall versus putting twice as many border agents with fucking M4s or whatever on the wall, or on the border, I would be more in favor of the agents, because at least I know you'll get more people doing that. I don't think the wall is going to do fucking anything.
Okay.
But, I mean, I guess we can...
I guess this is just a different way of looking at things.
Yeah, maybe.
All right. So we talked about manufacturing. We talked about illegal immigration. We talked about the border wall. We talked about Trump saying stupid things. This is your show, so I don't know if you have certain topics related to Trump that you want to talk about. But is there
anything related? I mean, his statements on scientific things. The vaccines cause autism. The climate change is a hoax pushed onto us by China. I don't know. I think those are pretty absurd statements, but.
Personally, I don't think vaccines cause autism. I think vaccines are important. As far as climate change, I believe that's real. But I suppose that it wouldn't necessarily hurt China or others to take advantage of that to try to give them a leg up in manufacturing and give them a competitive edge. I don't think that's unfair to say.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know, dude. I mean, making the statement that global warming is a hoax pushed onto us by China is a far cry from saying that, well, China could push it a little bit harder maybe to make their manufacturing more competitive. Like,
Yeah, but I mean, I came in here and told you that I like Trump, but that I didn't vote for him and that I disagreed with him on certain policies. So there are going to be statements that I disagree with him on.
sure. What have we talked at all about what you like about Trump yet?
I guess I like his mannerisms. I like the way he presents himself. I feel that kind of in our society, at least in this day and age, that we've kind of become a little too cocooned in political correctness.
We need more
And I
like
feel-
grab them by the pussy statements to
Sure,
show people.
absolutely. Why not? Would you rather have a man lie to you, or would you rather him be honest with you?
I mean, I'd rather have them be like a decent person, I think.
Well, what do you value more, though, falsehood or honesty?
Honesty doesn't mean anything to me if the person is a piece of shit. Like, if somebody's being honest with you
Yeah,
about
but you
their
don't-
fucked up
you-
beliefs, I don't like consider that to be like, wow, they're so honest.
You don't feel yourself in a better position to gauge them as a person if they feel honest to speak with you about what they think.
Sure, I do, but I've gauged Trump as a person, and I've gauged him to be a very bad person. So, I mean, his honesty doesn't help him in this credit. If Trump was dishonest, I would probably like him more because I wouldn't know as much fucked up shit about him.
Right, but what I'm saying is the reason I like Trump, one of the things that appeals to me about him, is that I feel that we're in kind of a PC era where people don't feel like they can open up and be honest. And I'd rather have open, honest conversation with people than having it masked behind, you can say this, you can't say that, this word is admissible, this word isn't, this is acceptable, this isn't. And I see him as kind of breaking that down. I mean, we watched an election cycle where everybody said, my God, look at the things he's saying. He'll never be president, but yet here he is.
I
And
mean,
think
I
that
agree
this is-
that people get a little bit too PC sometimes, but one of the big problems you run into is people start to call every single thing that is like even reasonable statements as being like PC. Like somebody might make the statement and they're like, hey, I think that would be cool if we had different incentives to kind of balance out the representation of men and women in a certain field. And somebody's like, oh my God, you're so PC. You said fucking PC, piece of shit. Like, okay, so what does like PC mean? And they're like, I don't think that stop and frisk or papers, please. I don't think that these are good policies because I think that they unfairly target, certain, so you're PC. You don't want to make America great again. You're PC because you care more about black people's feelings than keeping America safe. Like, I mean, what do you mean by PC? Like, if you're talking about the cancerous, toxic fucking culture that exists on college campuses, then I agree with you. I think that shit is fucking disgusting. Banning, I think a private university, Duval or some shit. I don't even know. Just banned Ben Shapiro from giving a speech there. And I know that other
Shapiro was escorted out.
Yeah, and I know that a lot of college campuses try to cut like Milo when people come and protest and shit. Like, I think that shit is fucking absurd, and I think everybody should have a voice in the United States. But I mean, like, when you talk about when there are a lot of people saying like, I don't like political correctness, we need to bring back stop and frisk. Then it's like, whoa, hold on, dude. Like, you can be not racist and also not be like a huge PC person too. Like.
Well, I guess there are a few points to that if you
Sure.
talk about this. Okay, so when you're talking about quotas, right? I mean, that's what you're kind of talking about with diversity in the workplace. You think it'd be better if certain sectors had more diversity. What are you basing that argument on, though? I mean, doesn't that come off as racist in its own way? When you're talking about putting people in a position for a job, shouldn't they be the most qualified? Shouldn't it be merit based? Why would we fill those jobs in with a quota just so it's diverse?
I mean, do you want to go into the whole? I mean,
Yeah, I mean, I'll talk. I'm here to talk, right?
Okay,
Unless
sure.
you don't want to.
Okay, so are you familiar with like the concept of like a positive feedback loop? Okay,
Yeah.
Here's an example, okay? Women were closing the gap with men for jobs related to computer science fields, okay, programming and all that. All of the computer science fields, women were starting to catch up to men in terms of representation. That stopped, I think, around the 1980s, 1970s, when home computer devices started to become available for people in the homes. What happened is all of these devices were marketed towards men, towards little boys who played with computers. And what happened is, as all of these people came of age, that representation of women in the computer science fields not only stagnated, but started to drop off completely. Right? One of the problems that you run into when you talk about things like affirmative action and all of these things, the problem is you end up in a loop where a certain type of demographic does a certain type of thing. So advertisers only advertise to a certain type of demographic. And then what happens is you get in this loop where nobody from the outside will ever come in because the only people being marketed to are the people that are already in it. Right? So the idea behind affirmative action is to try to break that cycle a little bit. Like, is it a little bit racist to prefer a black person or a little bit sexist to prefer like a woman over a certain job than another guy or whatever? I mean, yeah, sure. If you want to argue down to the exact semantical definition of what is racism or sexism, sure. But the ideas are to try to put people on a more level playing field so that you get a better representation of them in society rather than only creating these feedback loops that only favor a certain type of person for a job.
Oh, okay. Well, let me address a few points in that.
Yeah, sure.
All right, when we're talking about is it a little sexist, is it a little racist? I mean, are you making a for the greater good argument here?
Yeah,
we're going to
sure.
do some bad stuff because it'll benefit us?
Well, but I don't know if you would consider it bad stuff, but sure.
Well, is sexism and racism not bad?
For what purpose?
Just as a whole, as a concept.
I don't
itself.
think you can rule that as a concept as a whole. For instance, I prefer only women in terms of dating and fucking. Does that make me sexist? Well, I prefer women in terms of dating and fucking, not prefer women in terms of they're my doctor or they're my, accountant. Like, I don't know. Like, I think you have to qualify the statement a little bit more. It might sound like I'm mincing words, but like, I understand where you're going with the argument. Well, if you're saying that sexism is good in some places, well, then why can't it be good in other places, right? I think that for certain purposes, sexism or racism, I guess, can be used. Evaluating on racist sex can be used to further a good thing, but I mean it's specific to the example.
Okay. Well, let me try this
Sure.
Approach. When we're talking about businesses and hiring, so you think as a concept to get women or get minorities in, that sexism and racism is a good thing?
A little bit for the purpose of giving some people the chance to be represented in an industry, sure. Blanketly, like being sexist and racist with everybody, no, probably not.
And which way does that racism and sexism turn? I mean, obviously not towards straight white men, right? So
sure,
only towards women and minorities.
And minority, yeah, of course, for the most part, yeah.
Okay, and you don't think that's unfair to straight white men or to whatever group that would be left out of this?
I mean, when you look at socioeconomic status, straight white men are the best people off in the entire United States and have been for the entire history. I mean, I guess I'm not like, I feel like we're doing okay. I don't need a bunch of policy favoring me as a straight white guy. I don't feel that way.
Well, you're doing good. That's great. But what I'm saying is, so you feel it's fair to be unfair to them because this is beneficial in your view to put a woman or a minority in there because you want to create a positive feedback loop.
Sure.
I don't agree with that. I think people should be judged on their merits. I think if you're the best person for the job, you should get the job. If you have the best grades, you should get into the college you want to go. I don't think that we should create some arbitrary system where we feel like a demographic isn't represented to our liking and then skew it to ensure that they find a way in and then use the excuse that, well, it's for the greater good. And in this context, we're going to go against our principles and say, well, sexism and racism, you can't do it anywhere else, but here it's okay. I think that's
no one said you can't do it anywhere else. You just have to have a good reason for doing it. You have to argue it, like I figure in every specific institution, whatever, depending on what you want to do. I mean, it depends. Like, again, like sexism, like the maternity ward is only for mothers giving birth. Like, this is sexist. Well, no, of course not. Like, I mean, it depends on what you're talking about, right? Maternity leave versus paternity leave. Like, these are two different things, right? Like,
okay, so if a white nationalist came on here and they had a great argument for, I don't know, black crime rates and that being tied into black is a biological concept, you'd agree with that. I mean, you'd be like, okay, I totally take up your argument on this. Blacks are just predisposed to crime. You've swayed my argument. You could be swayed if a good enough argument was brought up to racist or to racism, right?
I mean, if it was a good enough argument, sure, but I think you're going to have a really fucking hard time finding a sociologist that's going to give you a causal link between race and crime when there are so many socioeconomic divides in the races in the American society. Like,
I just feel like I've walked into that. Like, it's just, this conversation is, I guess, weird to me. Like,
okay, so
I came in here kind of expecting one thing, and like we've talked about you wanting to bomb Mexico and give them a lot of money. And
I never said I wanted to bomb Mexico. I said
you said treat them like Afghanistan and Iraq, and I was like military action, and you said sorties. You brought up sorties, right?
Yeah.
Well, that's what a sortie
is. The cartel is worse than ISIS, dog. Like, holy shit. Like, I mean, do you know anything about what goes on with the cartel in Mexico?
I absolutely do, but I'm talking about what you've said you're cool with.
Yeah, I have no problem bombing the fuck. Those people are the scum of the fucking earth. Yeah, I have no problem with that.
You are cool with taking military action today against Mexico?
Sure, in coordination with anti-cartel Mexican leaders. Yeah, sure.
Okay, and you're cool with sexism and racism in certain contexts that you think create this positive feedback.
Sure, as are you. Yeah.
No, I'm not. I never said I was fine.
You're not okay with so you're not okay with giving mothers more maternity leave than fathers paternity leave or whatever, or you don't think that like is that something that would be you think that both deserve exactly equal?
Sure, why not?
Okay, I don't know. I mean, I could try to think of examples. Can I give you an example for the sexism thing, okay? So,
sure.
Do you think that when you go to apply for a job or you go to apply for a position, do you think that like every single thing that you've earned or got in your life is something that you like 100% on your own have worked for? Like society hasn't worked to shape any of those desires or anything whatsoever at all?
Do I think I've earned everything I have?
That like everything is solely attributed to you and that you've done every single possible thing on your own and you've done it all like
in my adult life. Obviously, not like as an infant, obviously, but no, I don't think so.
Sure. Okay. So the problem is that when you go through life, there's a ton of different people that are influencing you and pushing you towards certain things as you grow up, right? So the problem is if we look at something like women for video games or computer science, like typically as you grow up, not as much anymore, but back when I was a kid, and maybe when you were a kid, I don't know how old you are, right? It was really, really popular to market video games towards boys. That's just how it worked. Video games were for boys, computers were for boys, and all of that just happened to be the way it was. And then as we've gotten older, if you look at like gaming societies, right? Because that's what I exist in, gaming societies in the tech world, this is predominantly dominated by men, right? So if we don't do anything to change that, any kind of artificial action to change that, then into perpetuity, computers and games will continue to be marketed towards men, and that'll just continue on forever, and women will just never really have a big voice in that industry. Do you think that's an acceptable thing?
I think that people should be guaranteed an equal opportunity, but not an equal opportunity to outcome. I don't think that you should ensure that they absolutely have an equal representation. Maybe women just aren't as inclined as men for whatever reason to go into these sectors.
But now I want you to give me a solution. How do you increase women representation then in that world?
Because I don't necessarily.
So then you're okay with that continuing on into perpetuity with the one-sided systems.
If women decide they don't want to go into that industry, that's the woman's choice.
But if a woman decides that after being told her entire life that that's not a really feminine career to go into, that she shouldn't really be playing games and that's for boys, that women are kind of more suited towards these other things, do you really think that it's solely on that person's choice? Like, much the same way, like, I play video games professionally. Do you think, like, was it wholly my choice? Like, I got to fucking play.
I think adults should be responsible for the choices they make, yes. If an adult woman decides she doesn't want to go into the STEM field, she doesn't want to go into game development, she doesn't want to go into the tech industry, that's her choice. If she can't make that decision because other people have told her things and that makes her feel bad, that's on her.
So you think that everybody? So then why did you say what you said earlier? Because it sounded like earlier you acknowledged that there are a ton of influences leading up to the moment when you're making these decisions, but now you're making it sound like you're 100% solely in charge of making decisions. Like, which one is it?
No, you asked me if I thought I'd earned everything I had. I said no, I hadn't. Now we're talking about choice and decision.
Okay. So then I guess I'll go back and
gives me something. Okay.
I was speaking in terms of influence. I'm sorry. I'll ask you that question again. Then, do you think that every single choice you've made in your life, every big career-defining choice, or every big education choice, or what field you want to go into, do you think that you made that solely on your own? Like your genetics predisposed you towards something, and no outside influence or no kind of marketing or advertising or push from your parents or peers pushed you towards any of those decisions? Like, I don't think many people could say the answer to that question is yes. I think that for the most part, we all acknowledge that all of us kind of, as a society, push different people towards different things. But if that happens too much in one field, you end up growing with this disproportionate representation that will never correct itself without some kind of outside push.
And again, this goes back to what I've been saying. I don't think an outside push is right or necessary. I mean, you're assuming that this is the reason that women aren't going into these industries. Who knows what the reason is? You're attributing that it must be sexism, it must be racism, it must be discrimination, that we don't have 50-50 men and women, 50-50, 50-50 black and white. And I'm saying, I have no idea. Maybe they're just cultural differences. Maybe there are differences, biological differences in the sexes.
Okay, but how could you possibly know?
Wait. Why are we only talking about the tech industry? I mean, there are other male-dominated fields that don't have women in them. Like, let's talk about construction. Let's talk about sewage work. I don't see anybody running out and saying we have a disproportionate amount of men shoveling shit in the streets. We need to get women and minorities out there to do it.
Sure, we might. I don't know, but I'm only speaking to my field because this is what I do. But sure, there are disproportionate representations there in manual labor and whatnot as well, and I don't think that representation is good at all. Like, but what I'm asking you is, how do you? So then your answer is you don't try to fix that at all. Instead, you just leave it as is and let it continue on and let women representation dwindle in gaming and computing and tech or whatever and any other job because that's just the way it has to be. Is it dwindling?
I thought women were buying more video games. I thought women were...
Well, they might be now, but that's because of a push towards the social justice warrior lib-cuck policies of trying to appeal to people and affirmative action type behavior.
I don't know if you can necessarily correlate the two.
Do you think... I don't know what to say if you believe that. Like, I can show you old video game ads of there was an old one for Ocarina of Time where the captions were, "Will thou save the girl, or will you play like one?" Right? That's the type of ad that you would never see today. I can find tons of advertisements today. If you've watched any of the newer Nintendo ads, where you see pretty equal representation of girls and guys playing games in all the commercials. That definitely wasn't true when I was growing up.
But marketing techniques change. No, you're not going to see somebody trying to sell you a fucking iPhone using words like groovy and
okay, so marketing
and it's
techniques have
tubular.
changed. Yeah, so marketing techniques have changed, right? Towards marketing things more towards women. And as you've
Because
seen that happen.
Because they want to try to grab a bigger demographic, yeah.
Okay, so then what's wrong with that's kind of like an artificial push towards trying to.
Well, that's some guy in the marketing department saying, fuck it, let's give it a shot and see if we make more money. Right, a business's objective, their main purpose is to make money. So you're going to have people throwing all sorts of fucking ideas at the wall.
Okay, so what's wrong with pushing affirmative action in certain areas to get greater representation? Maybe you get more women then into computer engineering jobs. You get more women into these types of jobs that makes everybody more money as well. Like
we're talking about ads that are coming from a company. We're talking about consumer choice as opposed to boardroom directives. We're talking about you don't get the job because you're a straight white guy, but you do because you're a black female. And maybe you're not as qualified. Maybe you're not as smart as him. But who cares? Fuck it. We're going to put you in there anyway because hypothetically 20 years from now, a little girl in a classroom is going to say, I want to do that job too.
Because they do, because that's how people work. When they see people in those jobs, they feel more drawn to them. You don't think that children see that all the time? That when a little girl sees another girl either playing video games or working in politics or working in tech or working as a doctor, or if a little boy sees, I don't know, whatever fucking women jobs that they like, which probably aren't much.
Well, let me ask you this. How many men have you seen do different assortment of jobs? Are you equally interested in all of them? Or is there some personal preference that's just a part of you that drives you towards certain things?
I don't know what a part of me even means, dog. I've been being shaped by fucking society since I was grinding out of the womb. I was given video games and PlayStations and Segas as soon as I grew up. Like, I was probably always going to do something related to tech or video games as a result of that.
Okay, do men work in coal mines?
Sure.
Do you want to work in a coal mine?
Not really, no.
But you see all the men doing it. Why don't you want to work in a coal mine?
Do you think men work in coal mines because they want to work in coal mines?
Well, maybe women don't want to work in tech. Maybe they're forced into it. Maybe that's the last.
Okay, but men are working in coal mines in a time when men historically are probably the people doing the majority of the work. Like, you're giving me a worst case scenario for a man job and then saying, well, look, women don't want to do any of men. Like, because men were forced at one time.
You're giving me specific examples that you think are the best. Like,
I don't care if women. No,
I say that we want to have women and minorities represented equally. Okay, then I want to see a genuine push. If you're going to say we want them in the tech and STEM industry, then you better put them in the fucking sewage industry too. Because then it is ridiculous and it is bullshit. Because
okay, so then you're not. So then, if somebody who wants to go be a fucking plumber or whatever loses a job to a woman, then you're okay with that as long as the push is equal. Because I'm okay with that. Then fine, we can agree on that. If that's you want to see affirmative action pushed across every single field, I'm totally fine with that. I think that women should be involved in the draft as well in combat roles. Yeah, I have no problem with any of that.
I think women involved in the draft is fucking suicidal. Women are physically weaker than men. Are you kidding me? There's absolutely no way I want them in a combat zone. That's fucking crazy.
Yeah, but I'm sure there are some women that are probably more physically capable than the average man. Like, that wouldn't be surprising me. And not every combat role necessarily means you have a gun and you're walking out. Like, I don't know. There are other field positions too, but I have no problem pushing people into affirmative action into other roles as well. Like, I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. I'm not saying that women need to get all the good jobs and they don't deserve any of the bad jobs. Like,
because to me, that's what the push is. When I see all of these, going back to the PC mentality, right, that we're kind of starting off with and led us into this conversation, I don't see anybody saying, we'll teach her to shovel shit.
Sure, but I don't think anybody wants anybody to do those jobs. Like, I don't think anybody pushes even men to do those. I don't think everybody always tells you get a degree so you don't have to do that. So why would we push anybody towards it?
Yeah, but we're talking about diversity for the sake of diversity, good representation.
No, we're not. We're talking about diversity to inspire other people to naturally gravitate towards those positions is the point, not diversity for the sake of diversity.
So you only want diversity where you only want diversity in high-paying things.
Yeah, to inspire people to move towards better jobs. Yeah, sure. I don't want men working in coal mines either, or men working shitty jobs either. I don't know what a sewage job is, but I mean, like, yeah, I don't want anybody having to work those shitty jobs. If they do, that sucks. But I don't want anybody to, I guess, aspire to hate their job.
I guess this is just something we disagree with.
Do you think that when people grow up, if they see people working in certain industries, that it might inspire them more to work towards that? If they see that there's representation of their gender or race there?
I think that people are individuals, and I think that people have their own aspirations and dreams. And yes, there might be factors that help to shape those, but I don't think that people are so weak-willed that they need outside influences to come in and say, well, you're too fucking stupid to want to go into the tech industry. You're just a dumb woman.
This is a super condescending argument that is so fucking ignorant. I can't even believe you would say it. People, it has nothing to do with people.
I'm absolutely bringing it up.
Dude.
Let me finish it. Let me finish the argument, then feel free to tear it apart.
Yeah, go for it.
I think people are individuals. There may be factors that shape them, but I think that they can make a fucking decision on their own. I don't think that you need to come in and use outside influence because they're too dumb to figure it out on their own.
This is like
oh my God. Go ahead.
This is like the ultimate condescending argument from somebody that's never ever been in a shitty position in their entire life. Like I can't even believe
don't
that
know
somebody.
Who the fuck you're talking
I don't. You can't either that or you lack zero empathy or have zero intelligence. Like how can you speak to an entire group of people that have been fucked financially, that have been like, you go and talk to some kid that's been raised by like a single mom in a shitty fucking neighborhood who has no fucking real alternatives for jobs or education. Their schools are shit, and then you go and you talk to this person. It's like, dude, you're an individual. Just make a good decision. Just get good grades. Like that's the most like
so you
idiotic.
Want to treat them like babies? Like
no, you don't treat them like babies. You treat them like.
You want a better life,
Doug,
so I need to tell you to have a better
humans
life?
are predictable. Humans act in predictable ways. Everybody that's ever raised a kid or taught a classroom knows this. If you put certain things in front of a child, they will act in certain ways, in predictable ways. You are not as much of an individual as you might think you are.
So you don't think people naturally want to better their lives? They need to be told that they want to better their lives.
No, it's not. It's being told what you can do to better your life. If you're of a certain minority and nobody else of your minority works in a certain field, maybe you just grow up thinking like, oh, well, women just don't do that. Women just don't do these kinds of jobs. These aren't feminine. These aren't for girls. Or maybe black people just don't do this kind of stuff. I should be trying to play sports or football or some shit. That absolutely happens to people all the time growing up. But I mean, as a man, and especially as a white man, I hate to fucking bring this up, but as a white person who is male, you're never told that there's anything you can do. You have no idea what it's like to be told you're not supposed to do that. That's not the kind of job for you, because the sky is the fucking limit. But if you're some poor broke-ass fucking kid, a minority of some kind, whether you're a woman or a fucking black kid or a fucking Mexican growing up in some shitty fucking neighborhood in a shitty fucking school, to go to those people and say, well, you have just as much the ability to make a choice to further your life as anybody does. Like, it's so insane that somebody would say that with no self-awareness at all. Like,
oh, am I too privileged on this point? Is that what you're saying?
Sure, maybe. I don't know. Like, I guess I don't know. Just like in looking
your argument is treating people like they're fucking toddlers. Like, because they're a woman or because they're black, obviously their life must be shit. That's your base assumption. At the start.
Base assumption is that
no,
people.
That is your base assumption.
Yeah, I believe that about everybody. That people will respond in predictable ways. That if you put them in a predictable environment as an input, you will get them out of that predictable environment as a predictable output. That is true for every class of citizen. If you are born middle class and wealthy, you'll probably always be middle class and wealthy. If you're born rich as fuck, you're probably always going to be rich as fuck. And if you're born into really fucking shitty situations, there's a much higher chance that you're going to always be in a shitty situation. These are predictable things that are just how humans develop. Like, nobody is above their fucking humanity in terms of how they develop. Not everybody can be a pull up by the fucking bootstraps and get a magical job like me streaming fucking video games and now all of a sudden you make a lot of money. Like, not everybody has those opportunities or can do those things. And it's insane to treat everybody as though they have the option to do it.
No, it's not insane to treat them like they're not fucking retarded and that they need to be babied, because if you don't tell them to have a better life or that there's an opportunity for one, they'd never come to that conclusion. That's ludicrous.
But they don't, dude. A lot of people don't. If they don't see position because of one person did it, but that's not how it works in general. So you're okay.
Person.
So
you're assuming that if you don't interfere with these people's lives, that they're going to just continue this fucking trend. It's going to be an endless loop of stupidity. They're going to work shitty jobs they hate because they never are ever going to look at anything else.
So you think that black people?
Complex
so that it's not a white
telling. Yes, it is. Of coming in and telling minorities, of a white guy coming in and telling minorities and women, "I'm here to save the day. Let me fuck with the numbers. Let me set up a system that benefits you and fucks over other people because you need me, because you can't fix your own life, because you can't come to a decision to better yourself, because you can't come to the conclusion that you're more than capable of doing these things."
Not everybody is. Like, I don't know how else to say that. Not everybody is capable of doing those things. Not everybody even knows that they have the capability.
When we talk about who's not capable of doing it, you're saying blacks aren't and women aren't.
Yeah, disparaged communities that are in fucked situations for their entire lives? Yeah, absolutely, sure.
And their entire lives. So you think women are just in a horrible place right now, that they need this right now?
In a horrible place? No, not compared to where they were. Maybe if you go back 30 or 40 years ago. No, not their entire lives, but women are
about 30 or 40 years ago.
Women are, this is my only point. Women, do you disagree with this, that women aren't pushed towards certain positions? Do you really disagree with that women aren't pushed towards certain types of jobs?
Yeah, absolutely. I do disagree with that.
Then I have nothing to say to you. I would say go talk to more women. I don't know how to communicate to you if you live in Fantasyland. I don't know what to say.
Don't assume. I mean, you're just knocking it off because you don't like my perspective. I'm sorry if you disagree with it, but it's not fucking Fantasyland.
It absolutely is.
Fantasyland is assuming that women need you to come in and white knight them and save the.
It's not about needing. You're saying this. You've already got all the advantages, dog. You can do any job, and you've seen a white guy working any fucking job you could possibly ever want. You've seen white guys in politics in sports, in fucking any kind of economic position, and any kind of fucking technology position, and any kind of fucking business position. You don't have to even stop and wonder for one moment in your life. You've never ever in your life stopped and thought, should a white guy be doing that? Are people going to look down at me? You've never had that thought in your head ever.
How many white guys are in the NBA?
I don't know, less than black dudes, but they're still there.
Well, but maybe if there was equal representation, I'd feel more inclined to try to get in the NBA, right? So, I mean, should we remove some black people and put white people in positions?
I don't think that comparing getting into the NBA is the same as getting people out of absolutely fucked family position. Yeah, sure, but I'm just saying that, like, I think that there's enough representation in the NBA that if anybody wants to go for it, they probably can do it. Right? I don't think that, like, or maybe we need more Mexicans in the NBA. I don't know how many fucking...
What about the NFL? How many? You think it's more black or white?
Probably more black, I would guess.
So, I mean, what about, I mean, do we need women in the NFL and NBA?
Probably not, because now you're getting into athletics where there are hardcore physical differences, and you probably wouldn't want to push that.
Yeah, but weren't you just saying earlier you want women to get drafted?
And serve in the exact same equal capacity as men in every single size, shape, and form? No, I'm not that retarded.
Okay. All right. I'm just following this. All right.
I guess, like, when people grow up their whole lives and they've seen the types of things that their kind of people do, that has an impact on where they see themselves and in the decisions that they make for themselves. You keep saying, do you think they're too stupid to make these decisions? Yeah, absolutely. But everybody is too stupid to make these decisions. A lot of what we do and think comes from what society tells us. And if you're a white guy, the sky is the limit. You've never, ever, ever been told that you can't do something because of your race or your gender. Whereas women are definitely pushed towards certain jobs. That's why you see massive disproportionate representation of women in STEM fields, or in like, you look at the number of women in nursery compared to being a fucking doctor, right? Or if you look at minorities, you have these hugely disproportionate representations of, are minorities supposed to do these types of jobs? Like, these are things that these people have to face every single day growing up. So of course it's going to influence their decisions and where they're going to go for school, if they go to school, what kind of job they're going to go after, what kind of life they should have. Like, I feel like this is a pretty obvious, self-evident thing. Like,
I disagree. I think the core argument of we need to enforce diversity to inspire others is just bullshit. I think it's a disservice to individuals. I don't agree with it. I just don't agree with it. I find it reprehensible, to be honest with you.
Do you think that there's just as many middle-class people that end up lower class as there are lower-class people that end up lower class?
I'm sorry. I think that there are equal amounts between...
You have two people. One is born into a $30K a year family. Another is born into a $300K a year family. Do you think the guy born into the $300K a year family has just as much chance of being a broke loser as the guy born into a $30K a year family? If you were to take 1,000 people in each of these situations, do you think that they would come out the 50-50 on both ends?
Okay, I see where you're going with that. All right, well, my argument to you would be then, okay, you're talking about financial situations of family. We're talking about socioeconomics, and you're saying that, well, if you're born into middle class, you'll stay middle class. If you're born into low income, you'll stay low income.
That you have a higher chance of it.
Right. So you want to somehow even the odds and make it so the people in the lower class can come to the middle class. Are we going to apply that to the upper class too? I mean, should rich people be penalized for being rich?
No, because I don't want to hurt people. No, I'm not talking about pushing people towards shit. You keep saying that. Like, well, do we want women represented?
You are pushing people towards shit by taking jobs away from the people that are actually fucking qualified.
Oh, Doug, it's not like you have
somebody to put a woman in that position. You're screwing somebody to put a minority in that decision. You don't give a shit about the individual. You care about the greater good.
Okay, then maybe you have some type of tax subsidy or something, or I'm pretty sure that they even do for people that meet like certain types of racial diversity things, or hire certain types of people, that there are different types of benefits or whatever available for these people. Like, I'm just arguing the concept of, because you're trying to say that everybody can make a decision, right? Everybody can make their own decisions. And what I'm saying is it's absolutely not true, that people will tend to follow certain lines once they're born, that it's undeniable that somebody born middle class will tend to be middle class, somebody born lower class will tend to be lower class. Exceptions happen, but you wouldn't go to every single poor person and be like, yo, dude, just fucking pull yourself up by your bootstraps and fucking make a good decision. Like, you wouldn't do that, because it's not realistic, because people tend to stay where they are their entire lives. It's just a tendency of people to respond in predictable ways to their environment. Like,
yeah, but you're arguing for equal outcome. I'm arguing for equal opportunity.
I'm not arguing for equal outcome.
Yes, you are.
And you're not arguing for equal opportunity, dog.
Yes, I am.
No, you're not.
You're artificially installing people into positions because you want an outcome that you see as being beneficial.
And you're taking a man and a woman who are both applying for a job with completely different backgrounds, completely different lives, completely different influences, and saying like, oh, well, they should apply and be treated the exact same way. Why? These people have dealt through completely different things their entire life. You're not talking about equal... anything.
That's equal opportunity.
That's not equal opportunity.
They can both walk in and apply.
But acquiring the skills to get there, they didn't both have the same opportunities growing up to do it.
If you're not qualified for the job, you don't get the job.
Okay, then at least say equal qualifications, because what you're talking about is not equal opportunity. Okay? The person that's born in the fucking Bronx isn't gonna have the same kind of opportunity as somebody born to a fucking wealthy business owner that lives in fucking LA. Somebody born in the shitty fucking suburbs of fucking Miami or some shit is not gonna have the same type of opportunities as a wealthy businessman who owns fucking property in Seattle. These people are not given equal opportunities. That's absurd. That when both of these people show up at the business to apply, and you would say, well, equal opportunity, bullshit. These people had totally different challenges when they were growing up.
They had different challenges, but they both could have gone into education. They both could have worked jobs. They both could have fucking got themselves to where they are.
But one of them will always have a much higher chance of doing it. How can
So where do I put that on the resume? Where do I put sob story so the white guy next to me doesn't get the job? Where do I put, had a tough time so the qualified person gets kicked out the door?
I guess we don't, and we just continue to run everything as is and fuck the people that never have anybody to look up to or any reason to try to aspire to something greater because they don't think there's a reason to do it because they have no...
If you want a heart surgeon that got the job because he's black and not because he's good, that's on you, but I'm not risking my life for some fucking retarded logic like that.
Because a heart surgeon is the type of jobs we're talking about.
Why not?
I don't know.
You're talking about tech industry. You're talking about people working with software. Maybe they're working on software in airplanes. Maybe that fucking software doesn't work. Maybe there's a bug and the plane crashes.
That's a good point, because I think that when you put software on airplanes, it's literally one dude in his basement that codes the software and then pushes it right to fucking production.
Maybe
and it's installed right on the airplane.
Maybe it's a team of women that aren't qualified, but the fucking company...
And then the people that do the error checking are also minorities that aren't qualified. And then the pilot is a Mexican that's not qualified, and then the whole plane goes down on the fucking flames of affirmative action.
You're telling me you don't want somebody to become a software engineer or a pilot? I mean, those are jobs you said you want to inspire people to take, so maybe they all are.
I feel like we have a few checks in place in society to make sure that these catastrophic situations don't happen. But I mean, if you want to pretend that one person can program something that will bring an airplane out of the sky, I mean, I can't say anything then, dude. Like...
Okay. So if you hired somebody to do a job for you, you're not going to hire the best person for it. I'm talking about you specifically.
I'm asking what the alternative is if it's not that.
Okay, well, I can tell you what the alternative shouldn't be is what you're fucking proposing. I don't know what the better solution is, but I know the wrong one when I hear it. I mean, if you're going to hire somebody, you don't want the best qualified person. You're no bullshit, honestly, with me. You're going to pay the person that gives you the saddest story but isn't the best at the job.
I mean, it depends on the fucking person. First of all, you're making assumptions that, like, the guy who goes to apply to being a fucking heart surgeon is somebody that literally can't even operate on a fucking mouse or has never taken a med class before. Maybe it's somebody that just scored a little bit worse on their fucking final. Or
yeah, but maybe that little bit worse is what cost somebody their life, because that little bit extra better skill, knowledge, ability is what would have saved it. I want the best No, I'm not kidding you. I want the best person to get the job. I want them to be judged on their merits.
I guess.
That's not a ridiculous argument.
Okay, but maybe in the future, maybe the only reason somebody survives a surgery is because some incredibly gifted little girl or little black boy or whatever decides to go to med school to become something, and the only reason they did it is because they had somebody that they looked up to that was there. Maybe the only reason those Siamese twins were able to be cut apart for the first time in human history when Dr. Ben Carson did it was because when he was growing up, he said that there were certain doctors that were black that he looked up to and gave him the inspiration to do it. Like, I feel like you're only taking all the worst possible outcomes from my scenario. You're not looking at any potential positives. I'm not just talking, this is why I got mad when you said diversity for the sake of diversity. I'm not talking about diversity for the sake of diversity. If a few people have to lose their fucking jobs or some fucking bullshit ass women to come up and be in fucking gaming or whatever, but I double the size of my audience because women are interested in gaming now, that's a net positive for the entire fucking industry, right? If more intelligent women or more intelligent minorities are participating in these fields, these are benefits to society as a whole. Like,
right, for the greater good.
Yeah, sure.
It's a fucking horrible argument to make. I mean, are you going to go tell the guy that didn't get the job, tough luck, you don't have a vagina?
So this guy didn't get a job on one interview, and now he's fucked for his entire life. Like, oh, I missed the one fucking job. It's all over, man.
If all these companies in this industry are doing what you're proposing, yeah, maybe that is what happens to him. So what are you going to tell him? Tough luck, you don't have a vagina?
Should have scored better than the other white dudes. I don't know.
You were born what? You were born too white?
Should have outdone the other white guys in class, man. Sucks for you. You were at the bottom of your fucking whiteboard class. You got fucked for it. Rip. I don't know, dude. Like, what? I like that alternative. I would rather tell that person that thing than see little girls or little black kids or whatever, Mexicans, grow up thinking like, that's just not a job for me because I'm not the kind of person that does that. Like, that kind of thing really bothers me. I don't know, dude.
Yeah, we disagree on this.
I think
Like I
so.
said, I disagree with you just on principle. That's fine. We got way off fucking topic. I don't know how you run your streams or how long you want this to go. I don't want to keep rambling and fuck with you, but you want to keep talking? Like, what were the other points that I feel like it was 20 minutes ago.
I'm not even sure, dude.
We talked about PC. We talked about what was the fucking other one? I can't even remember at this point. I'm sorry, you there, man?
Yeah, I'm just hanging out.
Okay. We have different viewpoints on these things. I think would be the best way to sum this up.
Yeah, maybe. Well, I appreciate the conversation. Even if we disagree, I'm glad you came on and talked.
Yeah. It's a little weird. Like I said, I didn't know kind of what I was getting pulled into here, but yeah, it was interesting conversation, man.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I'll see you later, dude. Do you want to plug? Do you have like a YouTube or something you want to plug or anything? Or?
Oh, no, nothing like that.
Okay. All right. Well, hey, I appreciate the conversation. Maybe we disagree on pretty much everything.
pretty much fucking everything. All right, take it easy.
Yep, see you later.
Speaking as a former libertarian, don't bother debating with cucks that say life is tough. Too bad, because they either don't have empathy or they don't understand what the real world is like. Also, libertarians' views or moral compass is very binary.